Good afternoon, students. So today in this video we are going to discuss about law of diminishing marginal utility. So as we have already discussed that in order to know more about the concept of utility, there are two things that we should know. One is the total utility and marginal utility that we have discussed in our previous video, and another was the law of diminishing marginal utility. So today we are going to discuss about this law. So what this law states. So the law of diminishing marginal utility states that as we consume more and more units of a commodity, the utility derived from each successive unit goes on decreasing. Okay, so what this law is stating that as we start to consume more and more units of any commodity, the utility that we derive from each successive unit, it goes on decreasing, isn't it? So for example, if you are thirsty, isn't it, you take first glass of water, second glass, third glass, fourth glass, and after fourth glass now you are satisfied, and after that also if you start to consume it, the utility will start to diminish, isn't it? And also in this example only, if you take first glass of water, you will get maximum satisfaction, but if you take second glass of water, you will get less satisfaction than the first one, third glass, then less satisfaction than the second one. So in this way your utility will start to diminish with the successive units. Okay, so this is only the law of diminishing marginal utility. So in making choices, if you see, most people spread their incomes over different kinds of goods. People prefer a variety of goods because consuming more and more of any one commodity reduces the marginal satisfaction derived from the further consumption of the same good. This law expresses an important relationship between the utility and the quantity consumed of a commodity. Okay, so suppose your father, so let us understand this law with this example. Suppose your father had just come from work and you offered him a glass of juice. The first glass of juice gives him great satisfaction. The satisfaction with the second glass of juice will be relatively lesser. With further consumption, a stage will come when he would not need any more glass of juice. That is when the marginal utility drops to zero. At that point, he is forced to consume, if he forced to consume even one more glass of juice, it will lead to disutility. So such a decrease in satisfaction with the consumption of the successive units occur due to this law of diminishing marginal utility. Got it? So the law of diminishing marginal utility has this universal applicability and applies to all goods and services. So this law was first given by German economics at H.H. Gaussen. That is why it is also known as Gaussen's first law of consumption. Okay. So there are various assumptions of law of diminishing marginal utility. The law of diminishing marginal utility operates under specific condition. So economists call them the assumption of this law. So these are follows. So cardinal measurement of utility. It is assumed that utility can be measured and a consumer can express his satisfaction in quantitative terms such as 1, 2 and 3. So we have already discussed it is cardinally numerically measured. Monetary measurement of utility. It is assumed that the utility is measurable in monetary term, 1 util, 1 rupee, 20 util, 20 rupees. Okay. Third assumption is consumption of reasonable quantity. It is assumed that a reasonable quantity of a commodity is consumed. For example, we should compare marginal utility of a glassful of water and not of spoonful. If a thirsty person is given water in a spoon, then every additional spoon will yield him more utility. So, to hold the law true, suitable and proper quantity of a commodity should be consumed. Okay. So another is continuous consumption. It is assumed that the consumption is a continuous process. For example, if one ice cream is consumed in the morning and another in the evening, then the second ice cream may provide more or equal satisfaction as compared to the first one. So it has to be, consumption should be continuous. Okay. No change in the quality. Quality of the commodity consumed is assumed to be uniform. A second cup of ice cream with nuts and toppings may give more satisfaction than the first one if the ice cream was without nuts or toppings. So there should not be any change in the quality. Rational consumer. The consumer is assumed to be rational who measures, calculates and compares the utilities of different commodity and aims at maximizing total satisfaction. So as I have already said, consumer is always rational. Independent utility. So it is assumed that all the commodity consumed by a consumer are independent. It means MU of commodity has no relationship with MU of another commodity, so are independent. mu of money remain constant. The marginal utility of money is constant. So we'll see why. So as a consumer spend money on the commodity, he is left with lesser money to spend on another commodity, isn't it? So in this process, the remaining money becomes dearer to the consumer as it increases marginal utility of money for the consumer. But such an increase of mu of money is ignored. As mu of marginal utility of a commodity has to be measured in monetary terms, it is assumed that the mu of money is constant. So marginal utility of money is always constant. Another assumption is fixed income and prices. So it is assumed that the income of the consumer and the prices of the goods which the consumer wishes to purchase remain constant. So income and prices are fixed. Perfect knowledge. It is assumed that the consumer knows the different goods on which his income can be spent and the quality and the utility that he is likely to get out of such consumption. It means that the consumer has perfect knowledge of the various choices available to him. So consumer is having perfect knowledge. So these are the few assumptions of the law of diminishing marginal utility. So from this one is very important. Mu of money remain constant, rational consumer, then monetary measurement of utility, cardinal measure of utility. So these are the important assumption of this law of diminishing marginal utility. So moving on to the diagrammatic explanation of law of diminishing marginal utility. So we can understand this law with the help of this schedule. So in the schedule we have the units of ice cream, total utility, marginal utility, and you know the relationship between TU and MU. So in this diagram, if you see, units of ice cream are shown on the x-axis, while MU is shown on the y-axis. So from each axis, MU from each successive ice cream is represented by the point A, B, C, D, E. So as seen in this figure, the rectangles, if you see, okay, the rectangles are slowly becoming smaller and smaller with increase in the consumption of ice cream. So mu falls from 20 to 16 and then to 10 utils when consumption increase from 1 to 2. If you can see, the units are measured in the x-axis. If from 1 to 2, if it is increasing, the marginal utility is falling, isn't it? And then to third, it is also falling to further. Fifth ice cream has no utility. If you see the fifth ice cream has no utility where mu is 0, and this is known as point of satiety. With the sixth ice cream, when the sixth ice cream is consumed, mu becomes negative. So mu curve slopes downwards, showing that the mu of successive units is falling. Okay, so this is only the law of diminishing marginal utility. So this mu curve basically slopes downwards, indicating that the decrease in satisfaction with each successive ice cream. So when there is increase in the successive units of ice cream, the satisfaction will start to diminish. With each successive unit, the satisfaction will diminish. Okay, so this is about the law of diminishing marginal utility. So you can explore more about this law, that mu may increase initially. So in certain situation, mu marginal utility may increase. For example, a thirsty person may be more satisfied with the second glass of water as compared to the first one, as it depends upon the circumstances. But economists, they have normally assumed that mu continuously falls. Okay, so no indication about the rate of fall in mu. So law of diminishing marginal utility says that nothing about the rate of decline of mu. It does not specify whether mu falls at a slower or a faster, or whether it declines at a uniform or the variable rate. Okay, synonyms of law of diminishing marginal utility. So this law is also known as fundamental law of satisfaction or fundamental psychological law. So another name of the law of synonym of law of diminishing marginal utility is law of satisfaction, or fundamental law of satisfaction, or the fundamental psychological law. Okay children, so this is all about your the law of diminishing marginal utility.